Okay, so it is January 17th at 7:50 a.m. It's Sunday. I feel like today might be one of those days where I have to make a couple videos, and I always have to do this. I have to shift where I'm sitting. Um, a couple of videos today because, I don't know, I was thinking about it, and originally, like I said, for last year or so, I was putting videos up on without my face on them. I was putting a card and just putting what I thought. I felt the need to philosophize as I was going through some horrible stuff, and like I said, nobody paid attention to those. This is the channel, this with my actual name on it. The other one was, I think, therefore I Ant, because I was trying to be a philosopher, and my nickname as a kid growing up was Ant. Nobody really calls me anything anymore except for Hey You. Anyway, so I figured, I told you how I came to do this on here. It was because of what they call now the Capitol riots or the insurgents. As it was happening, I was just learning how to use the webcam, and I thought I was going to do other stuff like reaction videos. I was just going to try and see what I could do, just to see how it worked, and maybe eventually figure out something for myself to have a channel. But that day I thought the world was ending, and I figured I might as well go live. The end of the world. It's still the end of the world in a way, but what's bothering me now is since that day, things have been pretty ridiculous in terms of the way that people are being censored. The president was, his Twitter was taken away. Now his YouTube's been taken away. I have a lot of feelings on censorship and stuff like that. I'm totally against it. My whole thing is freedom. I said that before. Again, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I started off as a Democrat, became an independent voter, meaning I vote for whoever, around 2000. I have my own opinions, my ideas, and my views on the issues are all over the place. But what's bothered me is I've tried all these years to be on everybody's side, and I used to say that. I used to go to this one website all the time to talk about movies. Movies are my thing, and I used to go to this one website for the Oscars called Awards Daily, and I used to talk on there all the time. It was a nice place to talk to all kinds of people from all over the place. Sasha Stone runs it, and she would do her articles and stuff, and then in the comment section we would all respond, and this went on for years, and everybody was fine. And then, like I said, there was this wing of the group that became very militant, and because the way the world was turning, politics got wrapped into every discussion about movies, when it started being that the Oscars needed to award people based on making history, really, instead of what the best film was, what the best acting was, the best direction. It started being about the first woman this, or the first, it turned into that, when it's fine to celebrate those things, but when you're not being honest anymore, and it's all about, well, I'm this type of person, I identify with this group, therefore I'm going to say that this movie that was made by someone from that group is the best movie of the year, and I'm going to tell everybody, but I haven't watched it. Or I'm going to say that anybody who doesn't think that movie, who was made by the person from my group, is a racist or a homophobe or something else, because I just want my movie to win, and I will fight with people on the internet, because it's more important to have this historic moment than for me to not treat other people like crap. And that started to build over time, and that's why I really started to feel like censorship was creeping in. I mean, of course, there was PC culture and stuff, and I honestly I always try to not say anything that would upset anybody. I don't want to say words that are going to hurt people's feelings or anything. I'm leaving my hair out because honestly, it looks worse when it's just these pieces. But I've always tried to, if I know something's going to hurt somebody's feelings, I can choose other words. You know what I mean? I'm still going to say my piece. I'm still going to say what I believe. But then somewhere down the line, politics became everything. And it started to seem like people were going to kill you for their politics, or they were going to destroy you for their politics. And I don't even know how it happened. I knew it built slowly over time, and then it ramped up, like I said, in the last 4 years, because you know who was president. And a lot of people just really couldn't deal with that. So, but that was when I started feeling like I need to censor myself in order to not get, not just that site, but that was the one I went to the most, and that was I was confronted by people who were applying things to putting, in their mind, putting ideas that I never had into the words I was saying. Like, I typed something out. It's like, let me see how I can interpret that to make you somebody I hate. Let me see how I can interpret that to make you my enemy. And I never wanted to be anybody's enemy. Like I said, I was always on the side of everybody. You know, I remember when Brokeback Mountain was up for Best Picture and it lost to Crash, and I was devastated because I really liked that movie, but I also thought it was against gay people. I'm not gay people, but I always was friends with gay people, and I understood that at that time in the world, they were the ones who were having the civil rights fight. And not only did that movie deserve to win Best Picture, the only other movie that year that should have was maybe Munich. So if it had lost to Munich, I would have been like, okay, fine, whatever. That was a great movie. That was, you know, perfectly made movie. It wasn't my favorite, but it seemed as though there were a lot of people who voted against that movie for those bad reasons, and I was on the side of the people who thought that. I know that Roger Ebert, who loved Crash, was very still into the 60s civil rights movement. You know, he was more concerned with race as an issue than, you know, gay rights, you know. So, I remember being involved in all that, and then here we are, not that many years later, I'm in the same place, talking to a lot of the same people, and I'm being called a homophobe or a horrible cis. People were calling me a cis. I didn't know what that was. I had to ask people who were calling me a horrible cis person what that even meant. So then it was like, no matter what you did, you had to go along with this dogma. Then you had the Me Too movement come, and a lot of people I liked were getting Me Too'd, and I'm like, if they're gonna cancel, I already know my favorite people. I know what they're like, you know. If this Me Too movement really takes off, all my favorite people are gonna go, because anyway, but you know, people would turn on somebody in an instant. And I remember Kevin Spacey got canceled in 24 hours. His whole career got destroyed in 24 hours because he was accused of something, and it took one day. He didn't go to court yet. Nothing happened. Nobody really even knew the story. He was on the biggest show on Netflix, the first big television series on Netflix. The star of it, one of the most powerful gay people in Hollywood. Now, to that point, he hadn't come out, and I think a lot of people in the gay community maybe took offense that he only came out at that moment to try. I don't know if they thought he was just trying to save himself, but he was gone. Boom. And it did seem to come, a lot of that push came from that community. Maybe he did do things to people, and maybe he was a jerk, stuff like that. But I just, even if somebody is really, really horrible, I don't think that they should lose everything because of something they did outside of their work. You know, if you don't allow a person to work, what the hell are they supposed to do? And this goes back when I was a kid, and they banned Pete Rose from baseball. I was like, well, that didn't have anything to do with him playing baseball. I wasn't a big Pete Rose fan. I mean, I watched sports. I knew what was going on. I thought that's not fair. You know, because you work hard, you're the best at something, or you're one of the best people at something, you're a huge name. And as punishment, these people say, okay, well, you're gone. They did the same thing to Tanya Harding against sports, and in that case, I know that was lousy. People only started to know the whole story a couple of years ago when Margot Robbie did the movie I, Tanya, which she was great in it and everything, and I was really glad because I felt bad for Tanya all those years. You know, I watched figure skating before that happened and after, and it was lousy and it was wrong to just be cast aside, totally banished for something that you may have been involved with but you didn't even do. It's one thing to, you know, when somebody does a crime or somebody does something, we do have legal channels. The system's not great, but to me, that's where you have to settle that. You don't say you can never work again. Okay? And something that's your living. You're a baseball player. You're a figure skater. You don't know how to do anything else. You know, you've spent your whole life going towards this one thing, and you say, okay, no more, you're gone, bye. I mean, to that point, it didn't seem like people did that. Like if somebody was an auto mechanic, or somebody was, you know, I don't know, used car salesman, and they committed a crime. They drove drunk and somebody died. You know, the person goes to jail. If they come out, everybody expects them to go back to having a job. Nobody says, oh, okay, well, you did this bad thing, you committed a crime, you're done. You're banished from society forever. You're never working again. You'll never work in this town again. You're never going to be able to do your chosen career. Now, I've never heard of that. But this cancel culture thing that came up, any of us who were opposed to that seem to also be cast into that bin of, well, you must be somebody who needs to be canceled, or you must be a homophobe, or you must be a racist, or you must be all these horrible things, which basically ended up being, you must be a Trump supporter, and just a catch-all for all the horrible things a person could be, all those Trump supporters over there. So, then you have, like I said, over the last 4 years, little by little, they've been separating people out and being like, no, if you support Trump, you're this, you're that, and it's just like, if you voted for Trump, you're this, you're that, and the other thing. And it's painting in broad strokes, and not even broad strokes, and just like a big splat of paint. Millions of people with many views and many viewpoints and many events going on in their own life and reasons for the choices they make, as this one horrible, giant racist, homophobe, white supremacist, you know, crazy Nazi person who owns 10,000 million guns, and it's just, you know, and that's been the line coming, or the narrative coming from the media, especially as his presidency's gone on, especially as we were getting close to him running again for president. And now you know everything that happened lately. And the country's been divided, even though most people agree, the country's been divided based on who they vote for, according to the media. And no matter what happens, the media tends to reinforce these ideas that we're all separated by race and gender and, you know, Democrat, Republican. And these are carefully chosen boxes that some people put themselves in. And I don't understand that. Like I said, when I was growing up, okay, my mom's Cape Verdean, she passed away, and the other half of my DNA is Portuguese, which to a lot of people it's almost the same thing, but technically that would make me biracial, you know. So for me, growing up, when people talk about black and white, I like roll my eyes, whatever. You know what I mean? I didn't put myself in a category. When they would give me the papers for them in school, and you had to fill out I was put other all the time, other. And when I went and applied to NYU, I put other on all my forms. I always did. I get to NYU, my report card comes, it says Hispanic. I'm like, what? Because I never wanted to be. I hate race stuff. I hate anything like that. Excuse me. I went down there. I told them, fix it. I don't want any race on here. I'm not Hispanic. Fix it. She puts it in the computer. Next semester, what happens? It still comes back Hispanic. I told her, she's like, if it's in there, they're not going to fix it. I'm like, fix it. Did they ever fix it? No. And I was pissed off because I spent my whole life saying, I don't want to do anything like that. Now, at the time, I thought they looked at my last name and they said that's a Hispanic last name, which it's not, because when your name is Lopes with an S, there's no Z, so there's no Pez. You know, it's Lopes. So I thought somebody looked at my name at NYU and said, there's nothing here, let me put Hispanic. After I thought about it for a while, when you send away your college application, you have to put it into, in New Bedford High, you have to put it into the office, and then they send it out for you. And I had heard back from when I went to NYU, when I was there in school, a couple years later, I was working in or a year or so later, I was working in the admissions department, and the guy who was my supervisor had read my transcript, and he's telling me something about how my guidance counselor said something about in the thing about me having like a after school job or something. I'm like, what he said wasn't true, and I'm like, what? So I forgot all about that. And I was thinking about it later on. I was like, wait a minute, all that time I was Hispanic, she might have lied and said that I was Hispanic, because they used to try to make kids do that here. A couple of my friends, when they were taking the SATs, they yelled at them to mark off Hispanic. In the middle of the SAT test, you know how nervous you are? And they weren't Hispanic. But they were like yelling at them to put that down. You know what I mean? And they don't want to. But this is the games people play, and all the politics and crap. And like I said, I had no time for that. I have no time for race. I don't care. Everybody's an individual to me. And the more you think that now, the more of a freak you are, because people, especially people who should have wanted to be individuals, honestly, they've been putting themselves into categories. They've been wanting to belong. Instead of saying, waving their freak flag and being like, I'm whoever I am, deal with it. Which is how I always thought we were supposed to be, and what I was comfortable with leading up to current times. Now people have been trying to have these communities and these groups that they can belong to, because there's safety in numbers and stuff. So instead of saying, let's do away with all that old bull crap of all these, labels and rules and stuff, and the way the hippies were like, forget all that stuff. Now the younger people seem to want to force themselves and force everybody to see them as these labels and these groups and these things, and it's like, I don't go along with that at all. And in turn, to them, that makes me all these horrible things, a racist, a homophobe, and because I say I don't care about race. I don't care about that. You're just a person. But somewhere along the lines, people, I don't know if it was colleges these kids went to, somewhere along the line they got a message that you're supposed to look at the person over there. Instead of saying, oh, that's another person, you're supposed to find out what their race is, and then treat them appropriately for that race. Or you're supposed to find out somebody is this over here and they want to be called certain things. You are supposed to now treat them the way you're supposed to treat those kind of people. And that to me is the complete opposite of what should be happening. People should be treating everybody the same. I treat you this way, I treat him this way. I don't care where you come from, I don't care where she comes from, I don't care who you sleep with, I don't care if you sleep with a teddy bear. I'm going to treat everybody the same. That started to become bad. And that's the last, again, that's the last 5 years maybe. And I don't want any part of it. But I'm still being judged by those rules now, which make no sense to me, and I'm not any of those things. Okay. Like I said, I want to be on everybody's side. I continue to try to be on everybody's side. However, in the last election cycle, they were making pretty sure that everybody had to choose a side. If I have to choose a side, I'm going to go along with the side that talks about free speech. I'm going to go along with the side that's freedom of thought, because if you can't think whatever you want to think, if people are going to tell you what's in your head, they're going to tell you what to think, and if you don't agree to say a certain phrase or whatever it is they want you to do, then that means that they now know what's going on in your mind. That's what's been happening, and that's not okay. Okay, that's what dictators do. That's fascist. That's okay. You can talk about political parties and political systems, but when you're telling other people they must be a certain way, they must behave a certain way, they must say certain things and think certain things, you're a fascist. I don't care what your politics are. I don't care where you come from. I don't care where your great-grandparents came from. I don't care what chromosomes you have, what chromosomes you don't want. I really don't care. If you don't allow people their freedom, what are you doing wanting to exercise your own? It doesn't make sense. We all want to be free. Every human on earth, not just Americans, wants to be free. And I believe everybody has that right. They have the cosmic right to be free, to think for themselves, to be the person they were born as. Because any of us could have been born in a different country at a different time, to different parents in a different economic situation. None of us chose that. Okay? From there, we've all become who we are based on everything that's happened to us in our life, based on location, based on the language we speak, based on how much money we have, based on the education we got, based on how educated our parents were or weren't, based on the community we grew up in, and that's how a person gets to be who they are today, and I'm going to be different tomorrow than I was yesterday. I mean, if you're not, if everything that happens doesn't affect you and change you, then I don't know. I don't know how people can just stay thinking the same things no matter what happens. So, as I'm watching the news this morning, we're coming up on, I keep seeing more and more of these people who were at the Capitol riots being arrested. And I know that the next day on all these normal media stations, again, the dogma was it's all about white supremacy, and all these people, they're all, carrying Confederate flags or this and that. Then it starts coming out, oh no, wait, this guy's a failed actor. This guy was an Olympian, but he ended up being homeless. This lady who got murdered, she was in the Air Force. And there was a guy who was dressed up like a Trump supporter, but he was a Black Lives Matter person, I guess, or an Antifa person, whatever. He had been a speed skater. And I said to myself, all right, that Capitol, that insurrection was full of people with broken dreams. The American dreams cracked over their head. Their American dreams cracked all over their head. They got left behind by government, like a lot of us, over and over and over again. And the media will say Trump told these people to go down there, and now some of these people who got arrested, they're trying to save their butts by saying President Trump made them do it, when honestly, I watched The Apprentice. If he was in the same boat, he'd do the same thing. When he gets in the boardroom, you're supposed to throw anybody under the bus to save yourself. I know that. So, I don't feel like they're disloyal. He should not give them a pardon either. But nobody can tell the truth right now. The truth is, there were a lot of people down there that day. And they have more in common than they do that separates them. I don't care if they were Black Lives Matter or Antifa or white supremacists or, whatever else. Hang on, I got a cough. Okay, so all those people, like I said, they got left behind by this country, and everything that's happened to people, if you don't have money, if you can't find a job, if you're out of work, everybody blames you. If you go through a tough time, you're supposed to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, because most people can't see beyond their own front door. So they know they had a hard time in life. They know they worked hard and they saved and they did all these things. And well, they should have done what I did. I didn't have it easy. So why should I feel bad for them? Why should I, because you didn't walk a mile in their shoes. Unless you walk a mile in anybody's shoes, you can't judge them. That's how everybody was raised, not just me. You weren't supposed to judge people. You were supposed to know that you can't, because you don't know what they've been through in life. All that went out the window. You can judge people by their race and religion and gender, and then treat them appropriately and say all the right things to them, but you don't treat them as an individual who's lived a whole life. And that's where we've gone really wrong. And I'm watching these news programs, and they're talking about what might happen at some point, all these threats. I don't know if the threats are real. I don't know if they're not, but the idea that President Trump told those people to go down there and storm the castle, and they did it just because, whether he encouraged people or not, looks like that's a matter of opinion. I don't think he did, but I think people do what they want to when they want to. I used to be interested in cults, and I used to read up on them, and how could you follow Jim Jones, how could you follow Charles Manson, and I never understood that, because to me, you have your own mind, you can be misled and stuff like that, but nobody really just does what people like to blame people, or blame it on the alcohol, right? But people make decisions to drink alcohol. You know what I mean? You don't just, it's not, there may be mind control, and unless you're really mind controlled, like you're drugged and you've been brainwashed since birth, it's very hard for me to think that somebody could really make you do something you don't want to do. But that's where people are going to get themselves off the hook for what happened. Today, like I said, it's Sunday. The media is saying that there could be things. They've all decided to take the people who did go to the Capitol on last Wednesday and try to say that it was one kind of horrible Trump supporter, that one horrible Trump supporter that they always talk about that I've never met, the white supremacist evil person who hates everybody. But there were a lot of different kinds of people there, and in the summertime when there were riots, there were a lot of different kinds of people there, and a lot of people had different agendas, and some people were fighting for what they felt like they were due, or that they needed respect, or that they needed things to change. Same thing, you have people on the bottom who need respect and they need things to change, and the normal channels have not gotten them there. So what's happening now, something could happen, something might not happen, but it upsets me because I happened to watch a clip. I don't have HBO. I happened to watch a clip from Bill Maher yesterday when he was talking about that. I forgot her name. Was it Ashley? The one who was killed, the Air Force lady? He was talking about her, and he started talking, and even though he was half trying to be in it, he was still saying what she believed. And this is where I go back and I think about those times when I was talking to people about movies and it all turned political and then people started accusing me of things. To me, what changed is that people started telling you what you believe. Oh, you said these 3 words, so that means that you're a racist. I know what's in your heart. I know what's in your mind. I know who you are. I have judged you in 10 seconds, and I know who you are, and you need to be banished or punished or canceled and gotten out of here. You don't know. I don't know why that lady was down there, and she's not going to tell me or you now. She may have left a letter somewhere. She may have had views, and you can glean something out of there. But to say something like, oh, she seems smart enough, why she believe in Orange Man Bad and doing what Orange Man Bad wanted her to do. People had their own reasons for the things they do. And you won't know who a person is unless you sit there and talk to them. You find out who they are. You can't tell because they belong to this group and that group and they're from this country and they voted for this guy and they're getting these treatments or whatever. You can't know who a person is. I don't care how many labels they tack on themselves or you tack on them. You can't know who a person is even if you've known them your whole life. So how, from hearing one thing they said or a couple things they did or have one event, can you know what's going on in their mind, what they feel in their heart, why they're there? And it bothers me because nobody seems to know how to put themselves in another person's shoes anymore, even for a second. They don't even think to do it. They just know, I don't like your shoes. You and your shoes can get the hell out of here. That's how everybody is right now. And that's what's already destroying this country. Like I said, this is my video. I feel like I'm going to end up doing several videos. There could stuff could go on today. I don't know if President Trump is ever going to pardon anybody else or he's going to release any documents, which I was hoping for. I would like Julian Assange to be pardoned. I would like the Tiger King guy, Joe Exotic, I would like him to be pardoned. Edward Snowden needs to be pardoned. Because I hate the Me Too movement, I would pardon like Roman Polanski and Bill Cosby, but that's just me because I'm not saying they didn't do anything wrong, but things have gone too far into the bizarro world, and we need to come back and get to some normal, okay? Because the people are too militant. Everything, for all the race stuff, and I'm not talking about race stuff here, but everything is too black and too white. There's no such thing. The whole world is somewhere in the middle. And to judge people as if you're super pure or you have moral authority over anyone else is not right and it's not okay. And that's what got us into this mess. And I don't know what's going to happen next, but I felt like I needed to say stuff. So I said it. I will talk to you later.